Hey, tonight I want to speak from a very honest place. Not polished, not perfectly healed, just real. Have you ever loved someone who never fully stayed, but never fully left either? That kind of love, it does something very strange to the heart, because you don't know whether to close the door or keep the light on. And maybe this message is for you, or maybe it's for the ones who recognize themselves on the other side of this silence. There is a pain that comes from being left, but there is another pain, quieter, slower, more exhausting, when someone keeps coming back, just enough to keep your heart emotionally awake, not fully choosing you, but not fully releasing you either. And sometimes I sit there and wonder, what do they actually want from me? Do they want my presence, my softness, my understanding? Or do they just want to know that I'm still here whenever life feels too heavy for them? Because there is a difference, a very painful difference. I know what it feels like to become someone's emotional home, but not their chosen future. To be the one they run to when their mind is tired, when their world feels loud, when they need calm. But when it comes to building something real, suddenly they look somewhere else. And I won't lie, there is something deeply confusing about being told you matter so much and still being placed in a position that feels so little. Because I can accept that someone changes, that they grow, that they want something different. But what I cannot accept is this. How do you go from giving everything, from building dreams together, from feeling like you finally found your place, to being asked to stay in a smaller version of that love? How do you take something that felt like everything and ask someone to accept just a fraction of it? Sometimes the questions don't let you rest. Why do some people take so much comfort from a heart, but give so little consistency in return? Why do they say they feel safe with you, but still choose something easier somewhere else? Why is it easier to choose what's close, what's convenient, what doesn't require effort, instead of honoring everything that was built? Why is it easier to chase attraction than to protect connection? Why is it easier to let go of something real than to fight for it? And the one that sits the heaviest in my chest, why do they expect you to stay soft, to stay present, to stay understanding, while they're already living a different life? And since tonight is about honesty, let me say the thing many soft hearts are afraid to say out loud. Sometimes you don't just feel hurt. Sometimes you feel used. Use it as a place to rest. Use as a place to return to. Use as a place that will always understand. And sometimes you want to push it all away. Not because you don't love them, but because loving them like this starts to feel like losing yourself. Because there are moments where you remember what they once said, how sure they were, how certain you felt, words that made you believe this was something real, something meant to last. And now, you sit there wondering how something so certain became something so easy to walk away from. Sometimes distance gives you a painful kind of clarity. You start noticing patterns, the need to choose what's easier, the pull toward what feels good in the moment, the comfort of staying in familiar cycles. It's easier to choose something nearby than to build something meaningful from afar. Easier to follow attraction than to carry responsibility. Easier to move forward than to honor what was once promised. And maybe they tell themselves they've grown, they change, that they want something different now. And maybe that's true. But growth should not erase everything that once felt real. And choosing yourself should not come at the cost of taking someone else for granted. But if I am completely honest, there were moments I questioned myself. Moments I wondered what I became in all of this. How did I go from someone who felt chosen to someone being asked to stay in a place that feels like less? Moments where it hurt to feel the emotional connection was not enough to be kept, but enough to be returned to. And that does something to a person. It makes you feel like pieces, like you were everything, and then so slowly you became optional. And here is something I had to face, even if it hurt. I can accept that someone wants a different life. I can accept that they chose someone else. But I cannot accept being asked to stay in a space that no longer respects what I once gave. I cannot accept turning something deep and meaningful into something casual just to make it easier for someone else. Because I am allowed to walk away from something that no longer honors me. I am allowed to choose peace over confusion. And I am allowed to say, being alone is still better than staying somewhere where I have to shrink myself to fit. And still, I don't deny what was good. because there were moments that felt real. There was care, there was effort, there was something genuine, and I will always carry that with me. But I cannot ignore the other truth, that sometimes the same person who gave you beautiful moments also gave you the deepest confusion. And both can exist, but one does not cancel the other. If this message ever reaches the hearts that recognize themselves here, including yours, just know that this was never spoken from hate, only from a heart that loved deeply, gave fully, believed completely, and finally had to choose not to stay where it hurts. And wherever you are tonight, just remember this. You are allowed to love, but you are also allowed to leave when love stops feeling like home. Good night.